So I will read now the first verse of this chapter. Symptoms of Fortunate Souls from Bhagavatarka Maricha Malam from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. With the translation, it speaks about symptoms of liberated souls, that although the sky or space is the resting place of everything, the sky does not mix with anything, nor is entangled. So everything is within the sky, but the sky is not affected by it. And similarly, the sun is not at all attached to the water in which it is reflected within innumerable reservoirs. And the mighty wind blowing everywhere is not affected by innumerable aromas and atmospheres through which it passes. In the same way, a self-realized soul is completely detached from the material body and the material world around it. Like a person who has awakened and arisen from a dream, with expert vision sharpened by detachment, the self-realized soul cuts all doubts to pieces through knowledge of the self and completely withdraws his consciousness from the expansion of material variety. So this is a symptom of a liberated soul. Is completely detached from the material body and the material world around it. Completely detached. There's a similar verse in the Bhagavad Gita, because it's in the 13th chapter, text 33. Yata sarvagatam sagsnyat akasam no palipyate. Sarvatra vastito dehi tatatma no palipyate. The sky, due to its subtle nature, does not mix with anything, although it's all-pervading. Similarly, the soul situated in Brahman vision does not mix with the body, though situated in the body. So that is quite similar. So Prabhupada's purport. The air enters into water, mud, stool, and whatever else is there. Still, it does not mix with anything. Similarly, the living entity, even though situated in varieties of bodies, is aloof from them due to its subtle nature. Therefore, it is impossible to see with the material eyes how the living entities is in contact with this body and how he is out of it after the destruction of the body. No one in science can ascertain this. So it says that the soul does not mix with the body. But we have two bodies. We have body, mind, and soul. Body shows body with the senses. Mind is the subtle body. And the soul, that's who we are. So the soul does not mix. But one cannot see how it is connected. If the soul does not mix with the subtle and the gross body, then how is it connected? Can someone tell me how it is connected? Consciousness comes from the soul. That's one aspect. But what is the cause of the subtle and the gross body? If the soul has nothing to do with the subtle and the gross body. Desire. That factually, this is mentioned in the 15th chapter, that there the material world is compared to a banyan tree, upside down. That and it is mentioned here. So the real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. But it is mentioned before that this tree is nourished by the three modes of nature. That, but what is the cause of this tree? Why this material tree? The original tree is original banyan trees in the spiritual world, and the reflection is in the material world. What's the cause of the reflection? On what is its base? Desires. So by desire, the soul comes either in contact with the material energy or the spiritual energy. How does the soul come in contact with the material energy? What's the cause? We have already all of the answer, desire. It's not only desire. How do we connect with the material energy, and how do we connect with the spiritual energy? Please? That's the reason why we are here, for sure. But how do we connect with the spiritual energy? How do we connect with the material energy?
And the soul is under the modes, it's under the energy, but when translating by
why is the soul? The soul is never under the modes. That it can not be under the modes. It's mentioned in this verse, transcendent. But we connect. That's all. The sense objects are not the cause of our being here. That no, the answer is desire. We connect with Krishna's energies through desire. But what desire do we need to connect with the spiritual energy? What desire do we need to connect with the material energy? Please? Yes. Bhunte Prakti Changunan. Because we desire to enjoy matter. We become attracted to matter and we try to enjoy it. That matter is which energy of Krishna? Sevenfold Bhagavad Gita. Bhumi Rapo Nalavaya Vayu Kam Mana Buddha Ivsha Ankarityami Bina Bhagati Ashtatan. Krishna say earth, air, ether, fire, water, mind, intelligence, false ego. These are my 8 separate material energies. He says material energies, they are separated for me, not directly connected. Of course, for Krishna, everything is spiritual. But for us, it's a material energy. That how do we connect with the material energy? What happens when we desire to enjoy? And then we contact the material energy, the mode of passion. And that pollutes our consciousness, which comes from the soul. And by that pollution, we become attached to matter. But Krishna says in the next verse, Apariyam itastam yam prakti vidame param. Besides this lower energy, there is the higher spiritual energy. The living entity, the soul, is a higher energy. So we are higher energy, spiritual energy. And the material energy is lower energy. But what happens when we desire to enjoy the lower energy? That our consciousness becomes polluted. And we become attracted to enjoy the lower energy. Is that a good idea? If you are higher energy, to be controlled by the lower energy? Who thinks that's a good idea? It's a cause of suffering. We are higher energy, spiritual energy. Matter is lower energy. What's the cause of matter? Where is matter come from? Where does the material tree of the material, the tree of the material world described in chapter 15, where does it come from? It's situated on desire. So the material world comes from desire. Desire to enjoy. We are trying to understand this very deep philosophy. Trying to enjoy matter. We become controlled by matter. But it's based on desire. Like this body grows in the womb of the mother. Why does it grow? Because of the presence of the soul. So why does a tree grow? Why does a tree grow? Because of a seed. And what is in the seed? The soul. So matter comes from spirit. So what is more powerful, spirit or matter? Spirit. That's very important to understand. The subtle is more powerful than the gross. We have a gross body. More powerful than the gross body is the subtle body. More powerful than the subtle body is the soul. So we are connected with this, our connection with matter, with this body, is based on an illusion that because we are not matter. We are different. We cannot mix with this material energy. But our consciousness becomes polluted, and by that we are dreaming that we are the body. And by that we are dreaming that we are the body. And that's what Prabhupada explains in many purports. And here it is said, a self-realized soul has become free from this dream. So in the night we dream, and then we get up. We come in a daydream where we think we are the body. That still dreaming. A self-realized soul is completely detached from the material body and the material world around him. So this is the beginning of spiritual understanding that because we are not a body, nothing to do with it, but the soul is connected or seemingly connected just by the pollution of our consciousness. And this pollution of consciousness creates attachment of the soul with the body. But that attachment is also an illusion, but it's very strong. And since a person who is awakened from the dream, he has become detached from the body. He identifies with the soul, with his spiritual body, the soul, not with the body. I try to give an example of that. 4 or 5 years ago, I went on a hernia operation. And I was in the operation room, and the anesthetist who was going to do the who was, how you call it, anesthesia, applying anesthesia. And I was on the operation table and we were talking, and she was looking at my papers and said, "Oh, you are vegetarian. I'm also vegetarian." And she was from India. And we talked a bit, and then she put the mask on my nose, and I was meditating on Krishna. And in my meditation, I saw Krishna, Radha Krishna. And then a moment later, because I felt myself in a very helpless situation, praying to Krishna, I saw around Radha and Krishna and some light. And the next moment, I was in the wake-up room. So I did not experience an interruption of consciousness. But what happens? We are conscious living entities. And yes, when we are awake, we are conscious of the gross and subtle body. When we are sleeping and we are dreaming, we forget the gross body. We forget the gross body, but we identify still with the subtle body. But when we go in deep sleep, there's no consciousness of the gross body and the subtle body. But there's still consciousness. In deep sleep, the consciousness is withdrawn in the soul. And we are still conscious of the soul, of ourselves in deep sleep. And what is the proof? We are still connected our consciousness is still connected with this body. Consciousness of the soul. If you call someone, wake up, he will wake up. So that's important to understand. Now, at the time of death, dying is like 8-9 months deep sleep, Prabhupada says. So there cannot be an interruption of consciousness. It's not possible. Deep sleep is very close to the transcendental platform. It's a situation of deep peace. It's like Brahman realization, but we don't experience the bliss of Brahman because our consciousness is still covered by material consciousness and by gross and subtle body. So that realization that whatever happens with the body, the consciousness is still there. That makes us realize who we really are. So it is said here, a person who is awakened and arisen from a dream. That everyone dreams in this world, I'm the body. At night we dream, we think we are the subtle body. During the day we dream we are the gross body. But a pure devotee acts different. A pure devotee lives, he lives in this world without living in this world. That Prabhupada came to the West, but his consciousness remained in Vrindavan. And the first step, when you become a devotee, you don't accept the culture of sense gratification. The culture of sense gratification, which brings you in this illusion that Prabhupada said about his disciples, you are not true Americans because you have rejected the American way of life. So Prabhupada's disciples who were living in America, they were not living as Americans. They accepted the spiritual culture. And that's the beginning of that realization. Prabhupada came from Vrindavan, but internally he remained rooted in Vrindavan. He remained rooted in the spiritual world every moment with Krishna. And because if one is constantly engaged in devotional service, one starts to act with the spiritual body becomes active. And this awakening from the dream has different stages. The first stage is you have to remove you have to remove the pollution of your consciousness. How do we remove the pollution of our consciousness? Every morning for the Bhagavatam we sing Nastri Japatrasu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavata Tamaske Bhakti Bhavjana Istiki. By hearing daily the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to a pure devotee, all what is troublesome to the heart is nearly destroyed. Nearly destroyed. What does it mean? That's explained in the next verse. Tatorajastamobhava kamlogusayasyate setayater anavidam stitva sattve prasidati. Gradually, when one hears the Bhagavatam, the influence of the mode of passion and ignorance is removed from the consciousness. And one becomes situated in goodness. Goodness. Goodness is also material mode. Because what is the difference between transcendental goodness and the mode of goodness? Someone can tell me? Suddha Sattva and Sattva, what is the difference? Transcendental consciousness and the mode of goodness. Lord Shiva says that. He says Krishna consciousness is pure consciousness. It's consciousness without any contamination of the material modes. That's Suddha Sattva. So the mood of goodness is also contamination, because the mood of goodness is never pure in this world. It's always influenced by passion and ignorance. Therefore, it is said, by hearing the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is nearly destroyed. Nearly. So that is the first stage. We must remove this contamination. If we don't remove this contamination, we stay in the dream. We must come out of the dream. Because contamination is caused by lust, and lust makes you identify. So we should be very careful not to be in contact with the mode of passion and ignorance. It's deadly, it brings you an illusion. Therefore, a devotee lives always in the mode of goodness. The lifestyle of a devotee is in goodness. External, internal cleanliness. That's goodness. External, internal. External, you have to get up early, you take a bath, and so on. That you put tilak, 12, that say the mantras, clean clothes every day, and then you go to the temple in the morning, ring the bell, attend Mangal Arti, and then internal cleansing, chanting, hearing the Bhagavatam. That's internal cleanliness. So we must go to that cleaning process. Without going to that cleaning process, you remain in the dream. And the deeper you are in the dream, the more you suffer, because the more you feel attached to matter, although it's just a dream. But it's so powerful, the material energy. But then you must go further. Then you must come to Suddha Sattva. How do we transcend the modes? that Krishna says, Arjuna is asking, tell me about the qualities of one who has transcended the modes. How can I recognize these qualities? Krishna gives you a whole list of qualities, and then he says how to transcend the modes. Mamsyo Vyabhacharana Bhakti Yogana Sevate Sagadan Samachitchetam Brahmabhuya Kalpate. How do you go from the mode of goodness to transcendence? Krishna says by performing pure, unalloyed devotion. So by that you connect with the spiritual energy. If the soul only desires, how do you transcend the modes of nature? What desire do you need? Anya vilasta sunyam, jnanakamatam navitam, ankulina krishna nusilanam bhakti uttama. That's one of the definitions, how to transcend the modes. That anya vilasta sunyam. Anya, all the other abhilasta, all the other desires must become zero. That anya abhilasta is sunyam. And what are the other desires? Jnana karma tanavitam. The desire for liberation, the desire for material enjoyment must become zero, sunyam. And what desire you need to create? Anyablasus sunyam jnana matanavatnam. Ani kulina Krishna nusilanam bhakti uttama. You must please Krishna favorably. And that's the desire, to please Krishna favorably. We must act for the pleasure of the spiritual master, for Krishna. That's the same. Always act for the pleasure of Krishna, and you transcend. Because that desire comes from the soul. And by that desire, you connect the spiritual energy. And when you connect the spiritual energy, you become purified and you transcend these modes. And when you are completely purified, you transcend the modes, then you have been liberated from the connection between the body and the soul. That you don't identify with it anymore. Or there is still a very slight awareness. I'm the body. I have a body, but one identifies with the soul, with our real self. And then you are awakened from the dream. Then you will develop love for Krishna. Because pure devotional service means acting for the pleasure of Krishna, out of love for Krishna. Because who are we? We are a part of Krishna. We are this higher energy. And as higher energy, we should always be connected with the higher energy, which is Krishna. That's our natural state, because we are a servant of Krishna. We are this higher energy. And it's not normal that we become subordinate to the lower energy. That means suffering, identifying with material nature. We are not material nature. So that is how to make the connection. This is explained in many other ways. There are other definitions of pure devotional self-service. Savaitum sa parodharmo yato bhaktya adoxe ahait kapatirta yayatma shubhashidati. The highest occupation for all humans is pure devotional service, which so that service is pure when it is a haiduki, when it is without motivation to give something in return, just for the pleasure of Krishna. Apratiyata means always. We must do it always. When you don't act out of love for Krishna, immediately you are captured by the material nature. The material nature is so strong, it captures your consciousness again. So we must always act. But when you act with pure intention to serve Krishna, you will feel satisfaction and you become automatically detached from this material world. And everything becomes clear. This is explained also in the Bhagavatam. Evam pransha manasha bhagavat bhakti yogata bhagavat sarvavijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. So it said, when you become peaceful, purified by devotional service, then Bhagavat Bhakti Yogata, you become connected with Krishna. And Bhagavat Bhakta Vijnanam, you start to realize everything, your situation, to realize knowledge. All your doubts are gone. Then you experience you are not a body. You are not fearful anymore. Because the awareness of this body practically disappears. Like the six Goswamis, we sing Nana Shastra Vicharana Kanipano Sadharma Samstapakam Lokana Titakarino Tribhuvani Manya Sharanyakam Radha Krishna Padara Vinda Bhajana Nandena Matalikam Vande Rupa Sanatana Raghujuram Shri Jiva Gopalakam. This verse speaks about the six Goswamis. As the six Goswamis has collected the essence of all the Vedic scriptures, which is the science of Bhakti Yoga, how to connect with Krishna. And they are always absorbed in the mood of the gopis. Always absorbed in the mood of the gopis. They didn't identify themselves with their gross body, but with their spiritual svarup, which they had realized. Rupa Goswami, his siddhi svarup, his spiritual position was Rupa Manjari, a gopi in the spiritual world. We cannot imitate these things. But that is what it means. They identify with their spiritual body. And somehow or other, this gross body was maintained. They were sleeping less than 2 hours every night. And mostly they were eating every 2 days a little yogurt or something. But still, they were very active. Very active. They were striving on spiritual energy. Because there's a third definition of pure devotional service, which is given by Narada Muni. Sarvapadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvanam Nirmanam Rishikena Rishikesha, yoga, bhakti yoga, Sevanam Muktir, ja. Dat Sarvopadi van Nirmuktam, dat Parat van Nirmanam Rishikena, Rishikena, Sevanam Muktir, Sevanam Muktir, Sevanam Bhakti Uchati, Sevanam Bhakti Uchati. That's called, this is pure devotional service, Sevanam Bhakti Uchati. Sarvopadi Vinirmuktim. Sarva Upadi. All our artificial and identities we must give up. Upadi means covering. We are covered by a gross and a subtle body. But we should not act as the gross and subtle body. We must act as a spirit soul. Acting as the gross and subtle body means acting with false ego. These are coverings, Narada Muni said. And our false ego has many layers. We have to get rid of it. Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam. Vinirmuktam, you must get rid of these coverings. Tat Paratvana Nirmalam. Then Rishikena Rishikesha. You should always serve, please, the master of the senses, which is Krishna. You should always act for pleasing, serving the spiritual senses of Krishna. And that's called pure devotional service. It's the same principle that Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam Tat Paratvana Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchate. That people act as the body. They think they are the body, or they think they are the mind. There are all upadis. You have body, mind, soul. Some people don't understand I'm not the body. I'm the gross body, but they can't realize that they are not the mind. So we must act as a spirit soul. If we act as a spirit soul, means acting to please Krishna. If we act as the body, we act to please the senses of the body and the mind. We become the slave of the inferior energy. And that we must give up. Otherwise, we stay in illusion. So it says here, with expert vision sharpened by detachment, the self-realized soul cuts all doubts to pieces through knowledge of the self and completely withdraws its consciousness from the expansion of the material variety. So that is required when we chant Hare Krishna, absorbs our consciousness in Radha and Krishna, with love for Radha and Krishna. Because we try to connect with the holy name, then the mind wants to do something else. And it gets in the way. And we can't get through that. But it's important that when we chant, then we must take the decision. I have many things to do and to think about, but my time for chanting is holy. No other activities. You put a mobile phone far away, just you and Krishna. It's connecting with Krishna. And by that connecting with Krishna, this expert vision will come. All doubts will go. just by that connection with Krishna. But that connection with Krishna is not only the chanting. We must hear about Krishna. If we hear the Bhagavatam, verse by verse, it trains us, it trains our consciousness that we are not a body, that we are a servant of Krishna. It trains us. We have to hear this in various ways again and again. And especially, we must understand who Krishna is. If we understand who Krishna is, then we can understand who we are. If we don't understand Krishna, we cannot understand ourselves, because we are a servant of Krishna. When we hear the Bhagavatam, every day with attention, we will be able to give up our offenses, the offenses which we make. 10 offenses. Offenses born of disrespect. And disrespect comes from a separatist mentality. We separate our consciousness from Krishna. But it cannot become. We cannot separate it. Because our consciousness, our pure consciousness is pure spiritual. So this is what this verse says. The soul does not mix with anything and is not entangled. And that's also that knowledge is given in Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna. That Krishna says to Arjuna, you cannot kill Bhishmadev. Because Bhishmadev, you can only kill his body. But because the soul can never be killed, can never be harmed. Nobody can harm the soul. We are eternal, and we cannot be harmed. But by the pollution of consciousness, we identify with this body. So this verse is also the basis of that is explained also in Bhagavad Gita. Because if the soul cannot mix with the material energy, and we only desire, that's what do we do in this world? Who is doing things? It's very important to understand who is doing things if we are completely spiritual. And the soul does not do anything. And that is only desire. And that's explained in the 5th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. In the 5th chapter, let's see here. Yeah, text 5:14. Nakartit vam nakarmani lukasyati chachi prabhu nakarma phalasam yogam svabhavastu pravartate. The embodied spirit. So we are spirit, soul, we are embodied, covered by these bodies. But the spirit soul is the master of the city of this body. The master. So how are we the master of the body? Without the soul, the body is alive? No. So we are the master of the body, because if the soul is not there, the body does not exist. But the embodied soul, master of the city of this body. So the embodied spirit, the soul, does not create activities in this world, does not induce people to act, nor does he create the fruits of action. All is enacted by the modes of material nature. So who is Who is doing things in this world? Material nature. And what does the soul do? Desire, that's all. But and in the next verse, Krishna, so in this verse, it said the soul does not do anything. The next verse, Krishna says, Nadate gachit papam natseva sukritam vibhu, ajnana navitam jnanam tinam yantava. Nor does the Supreme assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the ignorance which covers their knowledge. So Krishna says, I'm also not doing anything. I'm not responsible for all these actions and reactions. So we are not doing anything. Krishna is not doing anything. Who is doing? Now the confusion is total. Huh? Who is doing? But who is in control of material nature? Where is that in Bhagavad Gita? Where does Krishna say that in Bhagavad Gita? He says, Deva Yesa Gunamaya Mamaya. This material nature is difficult to overcome. He said, Krishna, it's my material nature. But he doesn't say there who controls material nature. Rajam, what's the first line? It's the verse Maya Drakshena Prakriti. Krishna says, I'm the superintendent of material nature. I control material nature. How does Krishna control material nature? How is he doing it? Through what instrument? Through what way? That
Maya.
Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I'm without senses, that I have everyone's, but I've everywhere senses. That Krishna says in a certain verse, I'm Anumanta, the permitter. That I'm the permitter and the controller of material nature. Krishna speaks about the super soul. The super soul is controlling material nature. Ishvara sarvabhutanam ritisarjuna pishtistati brahmayam sarvabhutanim yantarudani maya. Krishna says, I'm seated in everyone's body as a super soul. And I'm controlling the wanderings of all material of all material entities who are seated in a yantra, in a machine. Krishna says the soul is seated in a machine, and I control that machine. So who controls material nature? The super soul, Paramatma, which is an expansion of Krishna. Who controls your heartbeat? Paramatma. Who controls your digestion? Paramatma. And who controls your thoughts? What you remember, what you know, who controls that? Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Sarvasiram Ridishan Vishta. I'm seated in everyone's heart. Mata Shmidranam Obamsa. I'm give remembrance, knowledge, forgetfulness. Everything you know comes from Krishna. Everything you forget also. You cannot demand, I will remember that. No. I'm coming in many places. And every year I return and I see faces and then I think, forgot the name. Sometimes Krishna gives, sometimes not. But you cannot demand, Krishna, you give me. No. Krishna is in control. So, but Krishna says, I'm not a doer. But still he's in control. But what is his control?
Extension.
Krishna says, Samam Sarvabheja Sunamit Veshitinat Stinapya. Krishna says, I'm equal to everyone. I'm equal to everyone. I'm not envious to everyone. I'm equal to everyone. So the super soul is equal. But the super soul is in the soul, came with us when we came to this material world. The super soul was also with you in your previous life, and the life before, and the life before. We forget, Krishna does not forget. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, says to Arjuna, it says to Arjuna, you forget because you change body. But I'm not forgetting, I don't change body. So Krishna knows everything what we have done in our previous life, and the life before, and the life before. And the super soul in this life gives us the reactions of our previous lives. And these reactions are this body. This body is a reaction of what we did before. We get different bodies, a different kind of happiness and distress, everyone. Comes because of previous lives. But our action in previous lives, Krishna says, I have nothing to do with it. He says, I don't assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. I have nothing to do with it. I just give the reaction of the super soul. So this body is a reaction. And we get so many reactions. The reactions of these bodies come to us in the mind in the form of happiness and distress. When you take birth, your happiness and distress is fixed. You cannot change. It's fixed. It's fixed how many breaths you will take. It's all fixed. You cannot change your situation. That many people think, yeah, I'm going to become rich and happy. You may become rich, but you get also the distress that's destined. And you become rich because it's your karma. Krishna allows you. We think we are independent, but that's a dream. But that is the result, this body, because we connect with the material energy. But when we connect again with the spiritual energy, through devotional service, this pure devotional service, which transcends modes of material nature, we have given 3 definitions. If one does that always, you become purified from all these reactions. Krishna, the super soul, destroys all your reactions. And when you are pure, only the last reactions of these gross material body remains. And you start to identify again with the subtle, with the spiritual body. We are the spiritual body. Spirit, soul, and spiritual body is the same. That here, the soul and the body are different. That so that is the way to become fortunate. Fortunate means to become a Mahatma. You connect with the spiritual nature. Because Krishna said, Deva Yesha Gunamaya Mamamaya Dharasya, this material energy is very difficult to overcome. But he says, one who has surrendered to me can easily cross beyond it. Surrender means we follow Krishna's instructions from Bhagavad Gita and perform this pure devotional service. That means we dedicate our lives to hearing about Krishna, chanting his holy name. We live in goodness. We perform service to the deity. That we hear the Bhagavatam, we associate with devotees. So these are very potent ways to connect our consciousness with the spiritual energy. So Krishna, he came with us, is in our heart, but externally he gives also spiritual objects that helps us to transcend the modes of nature. He gave us the deities. He gave us the deities. There's a problem with the, I think the battery is on. Yeah. So he gave us deities. He gave us the holy name. That he gave us the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. Absorption in these spiritual objects connects us with the spiritual energy. Krishna manifests as the deity, as the Bhagavatam, as Prasadam. It's also transcendental. That as is pure devotees, association with devotees. So we have lots of opportunity to transcend these modes by connecting. Because if our subtle body is because the soul has consciousness. We have the gross body and the subtle body. We have body, mind, and soul. The consciousness from the soul is going to the subtle body. It fills, your consciousness fills the subtle body. And so that polluted consciousness is in the mind and the intelligence. And we have to purify that. If we connect our soul to the spiritual energies, we become a Mahatma. Mahatmas to Mamparta, Devim Prakatyashiti. If we become a Mahatma and we connect with the spiritual energy, then we are. How do we connect? Krishna says, Satatam Kirtayantamam Yadanta Sadhita Vitra. Always chanting my glories. The glories are also in the Bhagavatam. That always connect. That many devotees, they are always absorbed in hearing. Some devotees, they drive a truck, and they are always hearing lectures. Don't waste your time. You can combine things. Be inventive in devotional service. That you go out somewhere and you know you will meet people and they will offer you food. Be sure you have nice food with you, that you can give them food. Don't take their food. You must be inventive. Give your association. Don't take their association. Always be under this spiritual energy. And then we are safe when we are always under the spiritual energy. And in like one who is always under the spiritual energy is always spiritually absorbed, like Madhavendra Puri. Madhavendra Puri was a spiritual master of Ishvara Puri. Ishvara Puri was the spiritual master of Lord Chaitanya. And Madhavendra Puri was a self-realized soul. He was always absorbed in thinking of Krishna. And once Madhavendra Puri went to Vrindavan, to Govardhan. So in Govardhan, there you have there Madhavendra Puri did parikram around Govardhan. And after the parikram, he went to Govindakund. That's near to Anyor in Govardhan. And there at Govardhan, he, in great ecstatic love of Krishna, after taking his bath in Govindakund, he was sitting down. And he was such a self-realized soul, he would never beg for his food. If someone would give him food, then he would eat, otherwise he would not. So he was fasting, he was sitting there. But he was ecstatically thinking of Krishna. That Krishna, it is mentioned in the 9th canto of the Bhagavatam, that there it is said that the Krishna in his heart thinks always of his pure devotee, and his pure devotee thinks always of Krishna. Krishna does not know anything than his pure devotee, and his pure devotee does not know anything than Krishna. That so can someone repeat what I have said? Sure. Can someone repeat it? Last thing I said. If there is no attention, then Maya steals your mind. Yeah. So that is the intimate relationship between Krishna and his devotee. And then suddenly, Madhavendra Puri was sitting under a tree and he was going to take rest, and he was chanting, thinking of Krishna. And suddenly a young boy came to him, a beautiful young boy with a little pot, a pot of milk. And the boy said, it seems you are fasting. I'm bringing you some milk, because in my village, no one fasts. Why are you not begging? If you beg, you get food. But take this milk here. And Madhavendra Puri was shocked. He was so attracted to this young boy. And he accepted the milk. But then the boy said, now I have to milk the cows. I will come back later to collect the pot. But he never came back. But that night, Madhavendra Puri was sleeping. Well, he could not sleep. It was full moon, and he could not sleep. And in the night, suddenly, he had a dream. And in that dream, that same boy appeared in his dream. And the boy said in the dream, "Oh, I'm now in the bushes, a little further." He said, I'm stuck in the ground there with a lot of green above me. It's very hot here. Please come and get me out of the ground." And that because the Pujari, out of fear of the Muslims, has hidden me here and he has left. So please come and get me out of here and build a temple for me that cleanse me. And anyway, the Reverend Puri, he was dozing and then he had this dream and suddenly he thinks, oh, in the dream that was the same boy as who brought me milk, and he felt very ecstatic. And the next day he went to the village. He went to the village and got all the villagers with all equipment to get this deity out of the ground. And he went to the place shown in his dream. And they started to excavate and they found this beautiful deity, three-band deity of Gopal. And Madhavendra Puri started to engage all the villagers in cleaning, cleansing the deity. It was very heavy. They needed many men to very carefully bring it on top of the hill where they built a temporary temple, and they organized an installation festival with first cleansing the deity, then Abhishek, and all the villagers, they brought so many foodstuff, all to offer to the deity. And Madhavendra Puri initiated different Brahmins and engaged them in the worship of the deity. And he stayed there 2 years. 2 years he was staying there. And 2 years later, he had again a dream, and the same boy appeared in his dream. And he said, "Yes, you have worshipped me. You are my eternal servant. You have worshipped me very nicely. But I still I'm still feeling too hot. Can you get for me some sandalwood tulip from the Malayan hills? That he could get that in Jagannath Puri." And okay, the next day immediately started. He immediately started, same thing. He immediately started for Jagannath Puri. And Madhavendra Puri, well, may happen again. But Madhavendra Puri, on his way to Jagannath Puri, he went to Bengal, from Vrindavan to Bengal, and he came in Santipur. And there is the house of Advaita Acharya. And he stayed at the house of Advaita Acharya. And Advaita Acharya saw that this Madhavendra Puri is so ecstatically always absorbed in love of Krishna, and he saw all these symptoms of ecstasy. So Advaita Acharya said, I want to take initiation from you. And Madhavendra Puri initiated Advaita Acharya. And then he continued until on the way to Jagannath Puri, and he came in Remuna. And in Ramuna, they were worshipping a deity, Gopinath. Kshirakshara Gopinath. That, well, he would get that name later. But they are worshiping Gopinath, and but of course, Mother Vendapura had installed Gopal at Govardhan. And he was thinking, I see they are offering first-class food here. And he wanted to know from the pujaris, please tell me what kind of food you are offering. Then I can make the same preparations. And the pujari said, we are offering every day 12 pots of kshir, sweet rice. It's a special taste. You can only get that here in this prasadam from Gopinath here in Ramuna. But then Mother Vendapura was thinking, I would like to make the same preparation for Gopal, but I want to know how it tastes. So he desired to taste it. But then one moment later he said, desiring to taste, that's selfish. And he condemned himself. He said immediately, Vishnu, Vishnu. And he was thinking himself an offender. But he said, but yeah, if someone gives me this rice, I will taste it. But anyway, he felt himself an offender and forgot about it. And he went out of the temple that night and before the temple there's a marketplace with a tree, and he was sitting under the tree there at night, fasting. But then at night, this Pujari van Gopinath had a dream. And in the dream, Gopinath said, by my own tricks, I kept one of these pots of kir behind my cloth. So please get up and come and get that pot and go outside. There you will find Mother Vendapuri, my pure devotee, and give him that pot. So the pujari gets up and opens the temple door, and he finds behind the deity this pot. And he took this pot and cleansed the altar, and he went outside because he didn't know who Mother Vendapuri was, and he was calling out, Mother Vendapuri, Mother Vendapuri. And finally, Mother Vendapuri, he said, yeah, that's me. And then the pujari went to him and said, Gopinath told me that I should give you this pot. That's for you. And of course, Mother Vendapuri became ecstatic. So since that moment, the Gopinath deity is in the Ramuna is called Kshirakshara Gopinath. Kshirakshara Gopinath. Krishna is also called Makanchora, the butter thief. Kshirakshara Gopinath. He has stolen the sweet rice, the kir. And that is the story of Kshirakshara Gopinath. Of course, Mother Venda's traveling is not finished, he continues. But if you want to read the whole story, you get a set of Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you don't have, you can get that here. It's in the Madhya Lila, chapter 4. And this is the experience of a pure devotee. A pure devotee who is self-realized and whose consciousness is completely withdrawn from the material platform. He always thinks in love of Krishna in his heart. And there's no suffering. He identifies with his spiritual identity that is even not aware of the material body. That's such a self-realized person is like a drunken man. A drunken man doesn't know whether he wears clothes or not. And a self-realized soul identifies with his spiritual body. It's not aware of the outer body, the gross body. Somewhere or another, Krishna maintains it in that. So I explained one of the many verses at the beginning of a seminar. We can spend another 7 days, but this verse today is very important to understand the difference of a fortunate soul and a conditioned soul. And how to become a fortunate soul. Just perform devotional service with great faith, and you will become like Madhavendra Puri one day. Thank you. Any question, comments?
You're just explaining how we're in contact with the inferior nature and the material, activities, etc. And we're soul, the jiva is spiritual, and we should come in contact with higher subject matter, right, or higher association. So for those of us who are on the path of bhakti, and we are trying to, somehow, what you're saying sounds very good, right? If we could get there. And, some of us, we listen to Bhagavatam, we listen to lectures, but still, through the practice of bhakti yoga, although we're practicing, obviously it's not pure bhakti, we face some challenges and some discouragement. We feel, sometimes that, maybe I can't get to that state somehow. Do you have any words of encouragement for us, Maharaj, that could give us hope so that we can feel that, oh yes, maybe we can come to the state at some point where we can 24/7 think about Krishna and get his association?
I will recite Krishna's words of encouragement.
Yep.
12th chapter. That Yetu sarvani karmani mai sanyasya matpara anamyane yogina mam dayanta upasate teshamam samudarta mrityu samsarasagrat pavamna shraparta maya visita setasam. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service, always meditating upon me, having fixed their mind upon me, O son of Pita, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. We perform devotional service, Krishna will deliver us. That's his promise here. Krishna promises also that, and that's a verse that from Bhagavad Gita, that Krishna says that in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in this endeavor of devotional service, there is no loss or diminution. That no loss or diminution. If you become 2% Krishna consciousness in this life, you will start with 2% next life. There's no loss, whatever you do. Krishna says also, even a little devotional service will protect you against the greatest danger. Greatest danger is to degrade and to become an animal in next life. So even a little devotional service guaranteed you have again the human form in next life. That's Krishna guarantees. And Krishna says, Nami Bhaktya Pranashati. My devotee will never perish. We are on a path, you just follow the path. And yes, it may take more than one lifetime. Probably we are already in the process more than one lifetime. But there's no reason to be to lament or to doubt this. No, our future is fortunate. But we need a little patience. That not afraid of going to more than one life. That also Lord Chaitanya says, na dhanam, na jnanam, na sundarim, kapata vashi, sakamayi, chanmi, chamamishve, bhavta bhakta, ahait, hitvahi. So I don't want wealth, I don't want followers, I don't want a relationship with the opposite sex. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. If we really have that surrender, probably we will not have to go birth after birth. But we have to try to surrender. The shortcut is association with pure devotees and engaging in Prabhupada's mission. So if we are endeavoring for that, then Krishna will take care of you. It's good to be busy in devotional service. Sometimes we think I'm too busy. It's good to be busy. I've always been busy with serving Krishna. Maybe not always conscious, but the intention of our service is always to please Krishna finally. And that's glorious. Then you don't have time to absorb in the thoughts of the mind. Your mind is always engaged in Krishna service, too busy. That's what we need. If we think a relaxed life, I'm going to see how it feels and so on, you are gone in the material energy. No, our relaxation is relaxation in devotional service. That's so many things you can do in devotional service. Things you may like. Do things you like in devotional service. Very nice. Does that help?
Very much.
Yeah, like this. Something else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Krishna says that he is in everyone's heart. Does that apply only in this material world? Is he in everyone's heart in the spiritual world also?
In the spiritual world, Krishna is there personally.
There is no super soul?
No. Super soul is a feature of this material world. When we came to this material world, Krishna came with us. We didn't want to, we wanted to forget him, but Krishna did not forget us. He's with us. And he reminds us constantly to go back, to give up this endeavor. Because we get frustration over frustration. That's also the super soul. That Krishna does not want us to be here. He wants us back. And suffering is a way to bring us back. Give it up, because we are suffering because Punkti Pratijam Gunan. We are trying to exploit inferior nature. Krishna says, come back to me, connect again with the spiritual nature. Spiritual nature means Radharani. We have to connect with Radharani. Radharani is a spiritual nature, the highest spiritual nature, not Dini Shakti, not for Krishna. Yeah. Does that help? Something else? Good. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.